Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you on this May 19th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And on this episode of The Rush, we'll be diving into the cancer diagnosis for former President Joe Biden, what he had to say and what current President Trump had to say in response. Then we've got the New York City boat crash that has gone viral. We'll explain what the heck happened. And also more on the Pope as his brother makes his first visit to the Vatican. Who else was there? J.D. Vance and the Ukrainian president, amongst others. We'll share those thoughts and then some Blake Lively insider tea as shared by Without a Crystal Ball. What's the new information on the Blake Lively Baldoni trial? I'll have that. And Josh Howley explains why he doesn't want his fellow Republicans to cut Medicare. And then more information on tariffs as Walmart says they're going to be passing the cost onto consumers. And now we have to hear what consumers have to say about that. So lots to get into. We're going to start it up for you right on this Monday morning. All these stories and more happening right now on The Rush. Well, we hate to start the Monday morning episode off with some somber news, but that's where we are today. Former President Joe Biden has cancer.
Former President Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, according to a statement released by his personal office just moments ago. They say the diagnosis, which was made on Friday, is a more aggressive form of prostate cancer, which has already spread to his bones. The former president is 82 years old.
So here is an update from President Trump. He says, Melania and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family, and we wish Joe a fast and successful recovery. Yeah, I think we all do, right? One thing I always say, for the most part, there's always an exception to the rule, but for the most part, whenever there's political disagreements with others, I always say, hey, look, we all want what's best, right? We want a thriving country, a thriving economy. We want health for our families and friends, and we want to, have success. And I think Biden liked and wanted that, whether people agreed with his policies. And in some ways, I hope that Trump wants the same thing. We'll have more political stuff towards the end of the episode, but let's just move it on. Oh, we got Pope in the news here. We have the Pope in the news. It was his first Sunday Mass at the Vatican. And here's the moment where his brother came to greet him all the way from Chicago. I got to tell you, now how cool is this? It's like, do you hug the Pope? Well, it's your brother. You used to give each other wedgies and wet willies. You don't give the Pope a wet willy. If the Pope wants to give you a wet willy, I guess if you're brothers, you say it's okay. But isn't this crazy? I don't think we've quite digested how crazy it is that the Pope is from Chicago. This is so wild. And not only did the Pope greet his brother, he also greeted J.D. Vance, which is like, please, J.D. Vance, don't touch the Pope. Last time you touched the Pope, we had to get a new Pope. But here is the brother of the Pope doing his media rounds, and this is what he... And also, by the way, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and his first lady also met the Pope. But here's what the brother had to say.
This is a life-altering event for everybody.
Home from Italy just over a day, John Prevost is now starting to digest the events of the past week. His brother, Robert, the newly elected Pope Leo XIV.
And when I got home and did what I had to get done and sat down, then I got the picture. This is a life-altering event for everybody. I was stunned at how quickly the vote went.
He went on 2 church trips with his brother outside the Vatican.
It was supposed to be secret, but all the way there, every road, both sides, jammed 4 or 5 people deep.
It's like you ever go to like a sibling's wedding and they're like super important and you don't want to like bother them, even though they're like your sibling, you're super close. You're like, today's your day. This is for you. I mean, imagine being the Pope's brother. It's like, you want to hang out with me? You're the Pope. You can hang out with anybody. He's like, no, I would like to hang out with my family. So yeah, there was obviously a lot to talk about after the inaugural Mass in St. Peter's Square. 200,000 people pilgrims came to the Mass. Pope Leo met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. It's Monday morning, folks. I can't talk. And the First Lady, May 18th, 2025. So here's the moment that he met with the Ukrainian president. And of course, listen, I hope that this, next sort of generation of the Pope. It has a message of peace for our world, in a world where we do have Ukraine here, who has been invaded by Russia, even though a lot of, there's been so many, that's obviously what happened, but there's been so much, politics about our support of Ukraine. And I think it's great to see, the Pope, the leader of the Catholic Church, host the Ukraine and say, look, we don't, your children, the innocent lives that are, falling victim to this absolute unnecessary war. It's just not needed. And what the Pope will do with other war-torn areas like Gaza is yet to be seen. But either way, we got our eyes on it over here. We're following Pope Leo. Here's a sad story. It went super viral over the weekend. I'm sorry for the sad stories to start the Monday. New York City boat crash. A vessel plows into Brooklyn Bridge. 2 dead. 19 injured. The update: Mexican officials identified the 2 who had died, but this was the Mexican Navy tall sailing ship collides. And again, I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. We have the tall ships come in, these giant sailing boats. They're really, look, they're there as sort of like ceremonial. The Mexican Navy's not exactly sailing the high seas with this thing. But apparently, what happened, as they've been told, is that the engines went dead. And I guess the boat, they couldn't move it. It was drifting into the bridge. And it's just an absolute catastrophe here. And this is the moment that, sad. It's just a sad moment in what is supposed to be a celebration. People just were like understanding this is not, because this boat was, 30, 50, 60 feet too big for the bridge. So my first thought was, did they have some sort of communication issue that led to it? But the mast on the sailboat snapped in multiple places, and it was just a sad moment there for our neighbors in the South. Also, sad update to Joe Exotic. His husband deported to Mexico after prison release. Now, as you guys know, we covered this just a few weeks ago, that Joe Exotic got married behind bars. Listen, he's behind bars for some sort of like assassination plot to Carol Baskin, right? That's what it's all about. I still think he was kind of set up. I don't know how much I believe he belongs behind there. Now, do I think Trump's going to pardon him? No. Do I think he's a danger to society? I don't think so. But again, maybe there's more to the story. Joe Exotic's husband released from prison and immediately deported to Mexico, TMZ has learned. A rep for Joe tells us his 33-year-old husband, Jorge Marquez Flores, deported to Mexico on Friday after being released from a Texas prison. His deportation comes one day after the Tiger King star posted on his social media that Jorge was taken to an ICE detention center for his hearing to either stay in America or go back. Ultimately, he was sent back to Mexico hours later. I don't know why he was in jail in the first place, but either way, no longer in the U.S. And Kim Kardashian and Katy Perry turning the heat up in Paris, sizzling for Lauren Sanchez's bachelorette party. I'm guessing they didn't take Jeff Bezos' rocket there. I think they kept this one in our atmosphere. No going to space for the astronauts. Although those dresses are out of this world. Okay. Yeah, we're easing into it, folks. Come on, it's Monday. Give me a break here. Let's mail it in together. But either way, I had to look into Lauren Sanchez because I was like, let me ask you this in the audience. Do you guys get a bachelorette party when you've already been married? And boy, you go to her Wikipedia, it's not looking too good. So she married this guy, a Hollywood agent and founding partner of Endeavor Talent. And then they had a son in 2006, daughter in 2008. And then 10 years later, you guys know the 10-year itch, she had an affair with businessman and Amazon founder Jeff Bezos while she was married. So he was married to Mackenzie Scott. She was married to this other dude. And then boom, a little affair. But hey, they always say, a good relationship starts with an affair with a billionaire. Next thing you know, he's going to shoot you into space. All right, coming up next, we're going to get into Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds. Have you heard about them? And Without a Crystal Ball has dropped some very interesting tea from an insider who claims to have all the information on what it was like on set. Not good news if it's true for Blake Lively. This story next. Well, the drama continues for Blake Lively, but we're actually seeing some celebrities vote with their follow and their unfollow regarding the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni lawsuit. Actually, right here, as reported in the It Ends With Lawsuits subreddit, Cara Delevingne has unfollowed Blake Lively and Ice Spice as well. Is this a big deal? Well, it's not a huge deal, but, it's an active measure being taken as people are seeing who is now deciding to unhitch their wagon from the Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively wagon. And here we have an update from Without a Crystal Ball. Now, she did a great video on this. You can go check out the full video, but she also posted the Sparks notes to our Instagram. So let's read it. She said, an insider that is privy to the film set and post-production of It Ends With Us says Brian Friedman knows Justin Baldoni and Wayfair will win because everything is on camera. Due to the nature of this action, the insider is remaining anonymous, but they are tied to the production. They're not reaching out at the direction of anyone. They are sick of the lies being told by Blake Lively. Yeah, when she mentioned that there was nudity here and this thing went down wrong on the set with the birthing scene and all of this, my first thought was Justin Baldoni has all of the, when they yell action, when they yell cut, everything in between, all of the sound, the rehearsal footage, all of that would be in control by Wayfair, which is Justin Baldoni. So you would think any of her claims could be refuted here. So here are the bullet points they talk about. Blake Lively was a nightmare on set. She's absolutely a malignant narcissist. There was no harassment. Cameras never stopped rolling in between takes, and often scenes were shot multiple times because Blake didn't like something during scenes. Video shows Blake trying to direct Baldoni and take over the set. No surprises there. Blake, and by the way, the idea that cameras stayed rolling between takes, very common with digital cameras now. Back in the day, obviously, you'd shoot on film. Film's very expensive, so you wouldn't do as many takes, but now they can just get more memory cards. Blake patronized and belittled people and would often mock benign things, which she found hysterical. She's detached from reality. Blake used threats during the entirety of the production to gain control. She's a pathological liar. Blake could not accept her role as actress and constantly fought with Baldoni. It's all on camera, and it won't look good for her. The insider says Blake is a fool to take this to a jury because she will look terrible. There is absolutely no footage of Blake ever stating she felt harassed or told anyone that she felt uncomfortable. It's the opposite. People on set had to tell Blake to take direction and stop interfering. Blake was a nightmare. It's true that she threatened to go to the New York Times and accused Baldoni of harassment if she did not get a final cut. Sony caved to salvage the movie. She did fire the composer and lied that Taylor Swift wouldn't work with the composer. The film doesn't have a finished score to this day. They were forced to license 19 songs because Blake got rid of the score. The new composer did not finish the score, and it's why the film doesn't feel like a movie. Blake was manic. She had no idea what she was doing. She didn't understand the story, and her edit was unwatchable. Sony Studios forced her to add a lot of Justin's edits and scenes to salvage the movie. So there it is. Those are the updates. And look, if you've seen the movie, it's a pretty good movie. Say what you want about it. It made $250 million. It was actually one of the more profitable movies of the year. But with that said, that wasn't Blake's edit. Right? And so I would love if when this is all said and done, they would share Blake's edit so we could actually see if it was unwatchable, like she says. Now, what's interesting to me, though, is all of the negative PR that came out about Taylor Swift, saying Taylor Swift wouldn't work with the composer because they couldn't really find any evidence of that being real. And if it's true that that was fabricated, also another instance where why would you are just really dragging Taylor Swift's image just to help out, you gain control. So very, very fascinating stuff there. And again, as the unfollows come in, we'll be here to share that story. Let's move it on to something else, but we'll probably have more this afternoon regarding the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni feud as we're expecting, motions to be reviewed by the judge this week. And there might be some interesting movements happening. Hey, maybe there'll even be a settlement. We'll have to see. All right, let's move it on. Mexico demands compensation from YouTube star Mr. Beast after pyramid chocolate video. Now listen, the video was not about chocolate, but they were promoting their chocolate brand in the video. They do that in every video. The video was about them exploring the archaeology in Mexico, which is a good thing. It's a great advertisement, to be honest, for the beautiful Mayan culture that exists there. One of my favorite things is to visit the Mayan ruins and all of the different areas in Mexico. I got married near some Mayan ruins in Mexico. We took our family on a nice, beautiful tour of one of the beautiful civilizations. It's fantastic. So he made a video called "I Explored 2,000-Year-Old Ancient Temples," and he says, "I can't believe the government's letting me do this." Well, on Wednesday, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum requested clarification on the conditions under which the YouTuber was granted access. In the video, the celebrity advertises his own brand snacks, calling them Mayan approved, prompting an official complaint from the National Institute of Archaeology and History. Now listen, I would understand that if they were desecrating the culture, and again, maybe you might say, well, Dave, he was, but listen, I think it was good advertisement. While Mexico is pleased that YouTubers and all the world's young people appreciate the value of our indigenous civilizations, it strongly condemns those who take advantage. The permit issued to production company Full Circle Media did not authorize the use of the image of the archaeological sites for the advertising of commercial brands for private profit. Mexico is demanding compensation for damages and a public retraction due to non-compliance with the terms. Okay, I get it. I understand. They gave him a little permit to make a YouTube video. Next thing you know, he's promoting his chocolate brand. But hey, Mr. Beast, that's how he, the dude's capitalism, right? He bleeds capitalism. But either way, it looks like he might be making some donations to the Mexican government. Build a Mayan temple. Help him. That's what he should be doing, right? He should be helping them maybe, restore some of the lost architecture there. All right, big weekend for Final Destination movie, Final Destination Bloodlines. Listen, it's a PG movie that you should take your kids to see. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Final Destination movies are for the most disturbed of minds. My wife would not be caught dead in a Final Destination movie. She cannot. I love them. Between Final Destination, the franchise Final Destination, and the Paranormal Activity franchise, they're fantastic because it's a formula that really requires tons of innovation. And Final Destination, the way the movies work is there's basically a charted plan for how everyone's going to die in the movie, but you don't know how they're going to die, right? You know that someone's going to die, but not how. And it's always through like the craziest things. Like I can never drive behind a truck full of logs again because God knows what's about to happen to your windshield. And okay, you guys understand how the story goes. But that was over 20 years ago that movie came out. So the Final Destination movies, they keep giving. All right, well, let's do this. Let's get on to some tariff news, right? This is going to affect our bank accounts, or won't it? Walmart said they're going to have to pass the cost along to some of their, to the people. They said they're going to have to raise prices on these tariffs, right? The tariffs for China have been reduced to 30%, but that's still quite a hefty number. Well, Trump then says, no, Walmart, you got to eat the tariffs. And Walmart said, maybe we'll eat some of the tariffs, but clearly if Walmart decides to eat 2% of the cost, 28% is going to the consumer. However you want to dice it, the consumer pays for the tariff. And coming up next, we'll discuss the breakdown of actually who pays for tariffs, which again has been said all along. It's the consumer. In this case, it's Americans. It's a tax on the middle class. So here we finally have the Trump administration finally admitting that the tariffs will be paid for by the consumers.
Initially, President Trump said, well, other countries, that's not true. Countries pay for the tariffs. But here we have a perfect example. China gets these tariffs, and then Walmart has to raise its prices, and consumers end up paying for them.
Well, Jake, in essence, what you're saying is taxes are inflationary, so let's pass the Trump tax cuts, and that'll be disinflationary if we continue that line of thinking.
I don't know that you can put me on as endorsing anything, but go ahead.
Let's just keep everything consistent. I did speak to Doug McMillan, who I have a very good relationship, yesterday, just to understand what he had to say. And, understand that came from an earnings call. On an earnings call, because of SEC requirements, they have to give the most draconian case. So Walmart will be absorbing some of the tariffs. Some may get passed on to consumers. But the other thing that's happening is that inflation is down. We had the...
So this is what kills me, right? Here we have Besant. He is a billionaire, 600 millionaire, 1.5 billion. He He's worth a hell of a lot of money. And they're trying to go, well, Walmart's just saying the worst case scenario. They're pretending like a 30% tax on goods coming in won't be paid for by somebody. And then they'll say, listen, this Doug McMillon guy from Walmart, he made $27 million last year. Do you understand how big Walmart is? So even if Walmart eats a small percentage of the cost, the rest will be passed down to us. So I don't like hearing billionaires telling us that this isn't going to be a big deal. Oh, inflation will be down. You won't even feel it. This is going to be ridiculous. And they can only kick this can down the road so far before people are going to see it with their own eyes. Speaking of seeing it with our own eyes, how about hearing it with our own ears? Here's former Vice President Mike Pence really calling out Donald Trump. Have a listen.
Listen, I've never been a fan of American presidents criticizing America on foreign soil. And to have the president in Saudi Arabia questioning America's global war on terror and describing it as nation building and interventionist, I thought was a disservice to generations of Americans who wore the uniform, who took the fight to our enemy, in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Particularly giving that speech in Saudi Arabia, where 15 of the 19 9/11 hijackers hailed from, and not including Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, isn't this wild? You guys remember when Colin Kaepernick took a knee at the in the football doing the national anthem, and everyone got all upset, like, you're disrespecting the troops. And then Colin Kaepernick said, actually, this is about police brutality. This isn't about the troops at all. This is a civil disobedience. It's a silent protest. No, you're the troops. And now we have Trump basically kissing ass with the Saudi royal family, and not to mention all the other sort of, he's like got this like weird bromance with all of the different Middle Eastern countries, maybe because like Europe has decided to sort of like cut him out along with Asia. So he's like, well, then we're going to double down in the Middle East. But either way, it's just funny that all the people that are so gung-ho for our country and our military are then okay with us like cozying up to the majority of, the country that harbored the terrorists for 9/11. But hey, it's an upside down world we live in. What can you say? Well, speaking of upside down world, here we have a Republican, Josh Howley, a Republican from Missouri, saying that the House bill goes too far. Is he going to stick up for the middle class of America? Dare he?
It ought to be just a basic foundational principle. It is wrong to cut health care for the working poor. 20% of Missourians, including hundreds of thousands of children, are on Medicaid and mono. They're not on Medicaid because they want to be. They're on Medicaid because they cannot afford health insurance in the private market. Number one, I don't want to see any more rural hospitals in Missouri.
So there it is. He says, there's these rural hospitals that the poor people need Medicaid. They don't want to cut it. Well, we'll have to find out how this goes down, but they're about to vote on a bill that will cut health care out to the working poor. This idea, by the way, of the working poor, no working person should be poor. In the richest country in the world, isn't this wild to think of, that we have to worry about scraping by? I say we, but the middle class really has to worry about paycheck to paycheck. If they get injured, like I hurt my shoulder over the weekend and I'm like, dang, can I afford an MRI? I don't even know. I spend $1,500 a month on health insurance for me, my wife, and my son. And I don't even go to the doctor because on top of that $1,500, it's like, what else is this going to cost me? Oh, I got that clicking noise in the shoulder. I'll be fine. In other countries, they take care of themselves when something feels wrong. In our country, we try to put Robitussin on it, the old Chris Rock bit, right? We don't have the funds to deal with our own issues, and they're going to make it even worse on us. So again, anybody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, that votes to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and systems that help the working poor, you'll never get my vote, and we'll make sure everybody knows who was complicit in all of this. And by the way, it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't. But they're trying to cut taxes on the ultra wealthy, and in order to do that, they need to cut programs from the poor. That's exactly what they're doing. Now, here's an interesting thing for you I wanted to show. You guys remember we covered last week the New Jersey mayor from Newark? He was arrested at an ICE detention facility. Now, he was accused of barging in and breaking into the facility, so he has released the body camera footage right here that you're watching of a guard letting him in, and he just walks there. And again, this isn't a random person. People are going to say, well, you know, the people that went into the Capitol during the insurrection, they were let in by guards, maybe so. But here we have a guy, a mayor, who's trying to do oversight and check in on this detention center, see what's going on. He steps into the parking lot right inside the gate here, and then he comes out. And that's the action that led to them arresting the sitting mayor of Newark, the largest city in New Jersey. And so they released the body cam footage to say, does this warrant an arrest? Political arrest based on just, you know, people trying to do their civic duty here? Very, very bizarre stuff. Well, that takes us to the end of our morning rush. I hope you got to work okay. We'll have some breaking stories if they come out during the day, and then we'll wrap it up for your ride home. So make sure to hit subscribe, share us with your friends so we can continue to grow, and then we'll see you this afternoon. As always, I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.